could go from there to the haunted furnace part of the mother house.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Is that the secret key thing, or like, can you
The
talk
secret
about it?
key thing. Oh, you
I still haven't looked it up, but I did a lot of animus time in my home, so
you feel ready.
I feel ready.
To have all respect for Darren Aronofsky be crushed. Well, what I'd start out saying is the house is a psyche. The house in Mother has that furnace, like this big drum of oil at the bottom of the house. It's even like locked up and plastered over.
And so when the house gets a wound, like she kind of follows the wound to that furnace.
To the very core of the whole thing, And there's this like, the furnace itself is like pulsing in and out of her awareness of the house.
Yeah.
When she's freaking out, the house starts like looking like it got burned.
Yeah.
But then it like sinks back into a normal like plank of wood, for example.
Yeah.
And that's like the power of the furnace, like flaming out
Radiating,
briefly and then coming back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie had a lot of potential. And
so wait, the wound, I do want to say a couple things about this out loud before you like the wound that's caused there in the baby's room before it's the baby's room.
And that's where that's where the brothers kill each other.
Yeah.
Well,
I did watch it on Amazon, and I saw that like all of these actors, their titles were like these archetypal things. So like
what?
I'm assuming that like Cain kills Abel is what you're about to say.
And that blood stain makes the wound.
Yeah.
Which then helps her like find the core of the house where the drum of oil furnace thing is.
And I was just thinking like there's like kind of a defilement of the house that happens when the first man arrives. Like it's inappropriate.
Yes.
But it's when like someone's actually killed there that like the house itself like expresses the wound. Like there's kind of a difference between like, I don't know, like assault and actual like damage or something, and that's what that wound is expressing, is like, okay, he didn't just like allow people in, he like truly failed to protect something, and that's what that's expressing.
Yeah. The core of the beast's house is his rose in the vase.
But like the furnace in Mother and the like heart stone, that's kind of the rose in that film. Like,
well,
how do you locate the core?
One is like an artifact and a result. Like, he's the house, but and out from him is the furnace thing at the bottom that makes the house. Out from the furnace thing at the bottom is this crystal thing, and he's so like disconnected from his whole process. He doesn't like think Jennifer Lawrence is like even like
part of it
an
at
essential
all.
part of the thing at all. But he was writing it that way on purpose to be snide and cynical about humanity. Oh, so do you want to know or no?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay, well, it's God and Mother Earth.
Oh, really? That's what I thought you were going to say.
And this is an environmentalism tale.
Oh my God,
about how
I knew it.
terrible humans are being to their planet.
Oh my God, I knew you were going to say that.
And
that was like one of my first guesses.
And every single human from the start has just been rotten to the core. And just disrespect is the only attitude we've had towards our home. And we're just these teeming, mindless masses that are just insane hordes.
Awful.
And we should be ashamed of ourselves, apparently, according to Darren Aronofsky. But that's the key that is guiding all these characters, is the doctor is Adam, who's smoking all the time. Michelle Pfeiffer is Eve. Their two sons are Cain and Abel. And the baby that gets torn apart is Jesus. And God is just an idiot, and Mother Nature is just this helpless, powerless, virginal like thing that we hate so much, and we are just, humans are evil.
That's awful.
Is something you're forced to come away with watching that movie. It's like in the first act is when like it could almost be a cool movie. Because you can sense the order under it. Yeah. You don't know why Javier Bardem is being so absent-minded professor. You don't know, like, you understand her connection to the house, and you understand her divinity, but you don't understand her motivations. You don't understand Javier's relationship to Adam and Eve, and you don't understand the things they're all saying to each other, and they're acting a little off. And that's really exciting if like it can spin into some beautiful poetry of moving parts. Yeah. That but the key at the bottom is just like coastal elite ideology about apocalyptic environmentalism.
It would be better, like, so I thought it was like this is what the artist does to the muse or something. Is like one reading, and I was writing to you about like, okay, well, yeah, that's a super common trope, but could it be reimagined as like the artist is literally like creating like a protective like tower around the muse, and it's like the opposite effect of what happens to Jennifer Lawrence. But I think like I don't know how to like there's something basically disrespectful about like there's something basically disrespecting like the feminine itself in his interpretation of his own film, or there's something like
well, he thinks he's doing a piece of like romanticism v journalism. He thinks he's doing a piece of journalistic art. Right. He thinks he's showing a mirror to humanity, like, look at how disrespectful to the feminine you're being. But it's like a question of, are the ends really worth the means? Like, you just spent an entire movie violating one of the world's top A-list beauties. Yeah.
Like violating like the image of like mother and child. Yes. Like violating the image of father. That's so disturbing. And it's, well, whether
it obviously wasn't intentional, because he thought he was like making this clever Genesis story retelling to like include Mother Earth into the cast. But it ended up being the other interpretation that you said, of an artist raping his muse for 2 hours straight.
Black Swan, big fan of that. The Fountain was interesting. Do I like The Fountain? Yeah.
It's worth watching more than once.
Yeah.
Because there's like, The Fountain really keeps it so tight in a way that I think is masterful.
It's really interesting.
It's hyperlinked. It's so densely that watching it twice is kind of essential to understanding. Like, he made a really cool hyper object there. Yeah.
Well, there's just like a cheesiness about the El Dorado or Tree of Life scene that's so cringy for me. Like it's like too saturated. It's just like, stop this like weird white stuff coming out of the tree. I hate it so much. Like,
I like that part.
Yeah, of course. But I'm seeing the way that like kind of choreography of all these plots happening at once is, I don't know why I'm talking like this, like what are we gonna do with this? But it's like this excellent training for what happens in the house and the circular shape of the house. It's like the world, obviously, but like as she keeps moving through it and the politics keep changing and it's like this incredible dance. It's so dark, but like it is amazing. Like it's hell, but like, you know, masterfully told, Milton style.
He's a fallen master, I think. He's made some of the best films I've seen. But he just didn't have a good idea for this one. I don't think hating humanity is a good like starting and ending point for a film. Yeah,
like watching it, I kept thinking like, is this, you know, a filmmaker as a poet, like, is this how he conceives of himself, that people are like worshiping him, the thing that the him character says to Mother is like, she asks why she wasn't enough, he says, that's just how I am, like nothing is ever enough. And it's like this really tragic view of like the creative spirit, that it's like this extremely dissatisfied, like...
Well, I think he's chosen resentment, and you really saw this come out in the way he talked about the movie, and he was holding this threat over his viewers in the way he was talking, like, if you don't like this movie, then like, if you don't go and see this movie, then this is another instance where art house wasn't given a chance. You just need to give art house a chance or it's gonna die. Like, I
would never tell someone to watch that movie. Like, not because I didn't even like, but in a way I really like it, like I want to talk about it, but like no one needs to see that.
No, it adds nothing to anything.
Yeah.
It adds a little bit to Jennifer Lawrence's career.
Yeah.
As far as her acting is concerned,
the way she delivers that line, "I'm his mother," it's like, oh, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, like she hasn't really put on some great roles in her career, and this one does.
She was amazing.
Does stand out, and as far as her resume is concerned. But I think Darren Aronofsky has chosen resentment over the course of his career because he's put everything he has repeatedly into some of the best films ever, and except for Black Swan, none of them have really made much money. And so I think he's been habitually choosing resentment in his narrative of why the world at large will or won't accept a given piece of art he makes. And so it's like turned inward in some fucked up way where he doesn't even, like, the muse comes with the next idea and he doesn't even want it anymore. Because it's like torturous to make and then like thankless at the end.
Yeah, and that's obviously what's like his anima that's kind of just happily going through and is just in touch with like the beating heart of life and gets pregnant with the idea and like is the muse force of his life.
He literally, in the way he built his fucking movie, he literally delivered the baby of his movie to cannibalizing masses in the way the fucking movie was made. He could have, there's a way he could have stayed true to like the initial impetus that would have made a alchemical, beautiful journey of a story. But like in the way that he told people what the secret was. Right. Yeah. That was him delivering an unprotected baby people who,
yes,
even if they wanted to care now,
yes,
they can't care about the film now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they know too much about it.
Yeah, I almost, feel like that explanation of it is like more protecting than the truth of it, which is like, this is like my masculine and feminine aspects like destroying each other in the way I like create things, because I have a super unhealthy like creative process and I'm like killing myself by it. That's so sad.
Yeah, well, I always have to, when I see this happen with artists I respect, I just always am forced to explain it away as an arc of age, and people accept that they fade from significance after a peak of 15 minutes of fame, and so they create a self-fulfilling prophecy of their art being worse and worse and worse to like fit with a basic cultural narrative that growing old is like becoming less powerful in the world.
Yeah.
And so he's like had his peak and probably agrees with that summation that he's peaked, and so now makes pieces of art that just further intensify an impression that his best days are behind him.
Yeah.
And it's cannibalistic and terrible to you and me because we are forming a different idea of what growing old can be. And so it's openly senseless to someone thinking about old age in a glorified way of growing aristocratic in your soul and like some like untouchable ennobled soul kind of way. It's openly senseless to watch someone shit on themselves, but to them like it fits with what they expect from growing old. That's like how I explain terrible arcs like Darren's.
That's reminding me of, I'm thinking of Ending Things, that Kaufman film, like that it was so similar because it was so amazingly surreal. Like it was just, in a way, one of the most beautiful, masterful films I've seen. And in another way, just like the darkest, most disturbing and like depressing film ever.
Well, this whole thing is setting you up for the third season of Twin Peaks.
Oh my God.
To understand finally why I worship David Lynch.
The Lynch Club strikes again.
It's back.
Oh, no.
We're back.
Yeah.
Because that's an ennobled soul becoming better by his age.
All thanks to transcendental meditation. You can sign up for our classes.
And we happen to be practitioners. But his art has gotten better. His art has gotten fucking better. And it's included, his arc has included the fading from intelligibility that you expect from growing old. But because he basically believes in goodness and alchemy, like he then weaved in what he did with Inland Empire, which is just indigestible dog shit. He weaved that into something even better than where he'd been before. He's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect, it's not the perfect, it's the third season of Twin Peaks is anything but perfect. It's a very flawed piece of art because it's David Lynch. Like it's not going for anything but lynchiness. But it's an example of having a secret key in the core of your plot and having all events and all characters logically responding to what linearly, logically must happen if this is the first cause at the center of your plot. But then he doesn't tell you what that key is. He just keeps that to himself. People ask him what Twin Peaks is about, and he says, it's about 18 hours long. He doesn't tell you.
Oh my god.
It's amazing.
We should go through and see how many speeches like this you've given.
Make a montage.
Yeah.
And I have the same
outfit on.
maniacal grin on whenever I get to this part of the conversation.
Your head's on fire.
Yes. Yes.